Today, CaddX have put out a Q&A and a bit of a statement around the new Ascent system, and they have addressed the question around if there is going to be an upgrade module for the Goggles X. And I think we all know what the answer to that is going to be. It is the answer that I have said from the very start. It is because of the same reasons that I have highlighted from the very beginning, and the fact that the Goggles X were never really designed to be upgradable, and now CaddX are finally admitting that. Now, I'm going to try and make it through this video without swearing too much. However, it is going to be hard to hold in my frustration on this one. So let's see where we end up. Today, CaddX have posted a Q&A on the Walksnail Ascent and the Walksnail Avatar system. This Q&A is a series of images posted on their social media platforms, and they basically say that there's been a huge amount of interest and they want to go on to try and answer some of the questions from the community. What is interesting in this, first of all, is that they are now officially calling Ascent Walksnail. In the past, it hasn't been clear if it's going to be labelled as part of the Walksnail system, but they are labelling them Walksnail Avatar and Walksnail Ascent. So Walksnail as a brand intends to stay, and below it, you're going to now have these two FPV systems. Now, question number one is about the name of the Ascent system, and I'm not really going to get into that because it's mostly marketing bump. Second, we have a question on what exactly is the Ascent system. This is quite interesting. They say the Ascent HD system chipset was independently designed by CaddX. Okay. As in industrial grade HD FPV solution, and is already used in that sector under different product names and industry specific solutions. It enables efficient, low latency and stable, low heat transmission of HD FPV video in a form factor suited to a wide range of applications. Initially, the Ascent-like product will support entry-level drones for FPV beginners, FPV training, and tiny drone enthusiasts, offering customers an accessible alternative for transitioning from analog. Since Ascent operates on a completely different chip architecture from the Walksnail Avatar system, we believe it has great potential and offers great flexibility in customer solutions. Now, most of that I would agree with. Custom, I think that remains to be seen because I'm not sure CaddX designed the Artisan chipset, but we'll move on from that. Regarding product line branding of the Ascent system remains under the Walksnail brand, as I said already, so they're going to have both under the Walksnail brand, whereas Ascent is going to be a part of Walksnail, Protoss separate to the side from CaddX, because Protoss is the drone, Ascent is the FPV system. Why develop it? They go on to talk about it offers improved power efficiency, less heat, lower cost compared to the Avatar system architecture, and lada. Don't really need to get into much more of that. And they just talk about Protoss kit represents an attempt to introduce industrial grade system and chip technology into the consumer electronics industry. Well, considering that chipset is also used in a lot of different drones out there, including the Potensic Atom 2, a number of Kasami drones, and a couple of others, I wouldn't really say they're introducing it into the consumer space. This little drone from Potensic, the Atom 2, it uses the same chipset. Question number 5 is the big one. Why are the Walksnail Ascent and Avatar systems incompatible? And this is where it gets very, very interesting. CaddX say as follows: these two systems are built on different chipsets and architectures, making them inherently incompatible. I do not disagree with that. That is fine. Although we have explored compatibility options, seamless integration cannot be achieved simply by replacing the VRX module in the top bay of the Goggles X, due to the internal system infrastructure of the goggles. For customers who already own Goggles X and wish to experience the Ascent HD system, a standalone Ascent VRX has been developed, similar to the Avatar standalone VRX module, featuring HDMI output. Learning from this, we are currently prototyping a new innovative and flexible goggle design that will allow independent VRX modules to be swapped in and out easily. Initial swappable module support will include discrete modules for Avatar and Ascent. So, let's just get this clear. CaddX are saying that due to the inherent differences, compatibility and seamless integration cannot be achieved on the Goggles X. Yet, they specifically market the Goggles X as upgradable. When you go to the Goggles X page, even today, this is now live on the Goggles X page, you can scroll down and literally here, 1, 2, 3rd image down, in order to reduce user costs of HD systems, we designed the upper part of the goggles to be removable, making sure the receiver module can be replaced so that you can maintain the latest without replacing the goggles every year. So, they are marketing the Goggles X as having an upgradable module, yet they are now saying that they cannot make a module to work with the Goggles X. Now, I'm going to be honest. We have known this from day one. I have said from the very beginning, this upgradable module nonsense on the Goggles X was just that. It was nonsense because CaddX didn't do anything differently on the Goggles X than they did on the original goggle to make it upgradable other than putting the panel on the top. The internal modules themselves are almost identical. So much so that to replace the module in the Goggles X is no more difficult than it is to replace the module in the original goggle. And my fundamental argument with this marketing nonsense on the Goggles X that it was upgradable was around the fact that they could just as easily make an upgradable module for the original Avatar goggle because the module itself performs the same task. Now, just to explain why I've always said it was never as simple as CaddX made it out to be. If we hop onto my FPV wiki, on here I have teardown images of the goggles. We even have full images of the internal modules. You can see here we have the original goggle and then we have the Goggle X. If we start with the modules inside the original goggle, this is the main PCB. There is only one main PCB in the standard goggle. There was a power board and the main board. And then in the Goggles X, there are actually a few other boards, but most of that is power regulation and I/O. On the original goggle, the main board contains the main chipset, which is the Artisan AR9201. This runs the Linux OS, has the RF baseband on board, and handles the main system of the goggle. The operating system, the RF link itself is all done on this chipset. You then have the memory for that chipset. You then have your transceivers. This is what creates the actual RF waveform on the desired frequency that you want it, 5.8 gigahertz. And then we've got our power amplifiers, some voltage regulation. And if we hop over to the back of the board, you can then see we have a couple of other chipsets. We have our display drivers over here, and then a WinBond flash chip here. The main thing to understand about the original Avatar goggle is the main board has the main chipset, which handles the operating system, the RF baseband, you have the transceivers, power amplifiers, display drivers, single board, and then you've got a second board that just handles power. That is this little board down the side here. You can see it's got the power connector on it, a bit of I/O as well. When it comes to the Goggles X, everything is very, very similar. CaddX did not design the Goggles X with an upgradable RF module. They designed it with a replaceable top board, but this board has all of the same components on except the display drivers. The only thing that CaddX offloaded on the X was the display driver, but that main top board that you see here, and I'll just hop over to the image of the board itself, again, has the main chipset, it has the RAM, it has the RF muxes that creates the waveform, the power amplifiers, and it also has the Wi-Fi chipset on board as well. If you hop to the back, you'll see that we have a flash chipset, we have some voltage regulation, but we don't have the display driver on this board. Instead, CaddX migrated the display driver down to the front board, which is this Lotium chipset here. Now, when I reviewed my Goggles X 2 years ago on the channel, I even highlighted these same points in that original video. Now, when I was showing you around these goggles, you may have noticed that this center area here on the top of the goggle looks like it's removable, and that is because it is. CaddX have added this removable panel that allows you to get to the board below, allowing for simple future upgrades. Okay, so I've got the board out now. You can see the top of the chipsets there. I'm not going to remove the heat compound at this point. I will have images up on repair.wiki, and I will talk about the ICs on this in a little bit more detail later on. And then just to flip it over to the back, you can then see the rear of the board with our two connections, which is one like that camera connector over here, and one up here, which is that ribbon cable. Now, whilst they are saying that this board is modular, removable, I'll be honest, it's not really any easier than the board on the original goggle. Whilst you've got 2 screws to remove the top panel, pretty much everything else is the same. On the original goggle, you only actually had to remove 4 screws, undo 4 UFLs, 2 ribbon cables and a power cable, and you could take the board out as well. Whilst they're calling it modular, I'm not buying into the fact that it is completely modular. It isn't actually that much different to the original V1 goggles. At this moment in time, there are no upgrades available for it, but it is a feature CaddX have added just to try and offer a bit more longevity to the goggle, but this is obviously going to rely on them making upgrade boards available in the future. It was always the case that to be able to upgrade the Goggles X, you were going to have to replace the main system board, the same board basically that was in the original goggle. And in my opinion, and I have said this several times, the Goggles X was no easier and no more upgradable than the original goggle. And all of this talk about it being upgradable was marketing nonsense with no real basis in technical reality, other than the fact that you can take the top panel off instead of taking the front panel off. Now, there are a number of other questions that CaddX have answered, so we've got reasons for the coexistence of the system. Not really going to get into that one. Question 7 is quite interesting. What is the future direction of Walksnail Ascent? They go on to say Walksnail Ascent will form an independent ecosystem, including the upcoming Ascent Lite VTX. So there is a standalone VTX coming for the Ascent. Walksnail Ascent VRX, we know already, they've said there's a VRX module coming. A new modular goggle, which they have announced today, and an Ascent GT Pro VTX, which is something new that we didn't know about. At present, aside from the new modular goggles, other products have already entered small batch trial production and are currently undergoing testing. Right now, I'm reading that as this new goggle is something that they've scribbled on the back of a fag packet whilst trying to get themselves out the crap over what they've had to say about the Goggles X. What is the future direction of Walksnail Avatar? And this is the big one. New Walksnail Avatar products are on the roadmap, including upcoming GT2 and Infra HD VTXs. They haven't said VTX, but it's a VTX. Regarding the Moonlight successor product, internally known as ML2, CaddX is testing a 4K solution across different architectures to determine the best fit for internal performance requirements. Walksnail Avatar series, which has always been our high-end flagship line, will continue to hold that position in the future. So, CaddX are saying that Avatar HD will continue. It isn't going anywhere yet, and the two products are going to continue to be sold side by side. So, just to summarise before sharing with you my thoughts, CaddX have announced that Ascent will be sold alongside Avatar HD, and Avatar HD, apparently, according to CaddX, will continue. According to CaddX, there is a new VTX module, a standalone version of the Ascent VTX, a VRX module coming, as well as a GT Pro VTX for the Ascent system. CaddX have also announced that they are going to make a new goggle that has upgradable modules. Who would have thought such a thing that will work with both Avatar and the Ascent system? However, that they haven't started working on that yet. The other products, though, are in testing. They have said that the GT2 VTX is coming, as well as an IR camera system for the Avatar system, and they are still evaluating the situation with regards to the Moonlight 2. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts on this situation, the kind of words that you would use with this are words like lied, bait and switch, gaslighting, deceptive, disingenuous, and the truth is, it is all of these things. This isn't about CaddX not making the goggles upgradable. This is about what they said they were going to do. CaddX chose to market the Goggles X as being upgradable. They are still selling the Goggles X today on their website with the words replaceable modules, so you don't have to replace your goggles every year. They are still saying that, yet their Q&A is now admitting that it isn't technically viable. It isn't possible. Now, I'm going to be clear. I do not believe the technical limitation for 1 minute. BS. Gaslighting is what that is. What CaddX have realised is what was always the case, that making the Goggles X upgradable would mean replacing the main system board, which would not only be hugely expensive, but also would mean the goggles can only work with one system or the other. There is this possibility CaddX had this intention to have released Avatar 2, which did have backwards compatibility, which meant when you swap the module, it would work with the old and the new system, which isn't the case with Ascent. But that doesn't change the fact that they have completely gone back on what they said. They are gaslighting people in their Q&A. They are trying to say, on further reflection, this is going to be the best way forward. And the truth is this. They've now made more promises that you cannot believe. We're going to make another goggle. This one, though, will be upgradable. Although we told you the last one would be upgradable, and we're still selling the last one as upgradable, but we're not going to make a module for it, because instead we're going to make a new goggle, which really is upgradable this time. I promise you, please listen to me. I'm not the bad guy. It's these nasty KOLs who are saying bad things. They're the ones who keep highlighting the bad things that we do. If they didn't tell you about the bad things, you would think we're great. And that's the reality of the situation. What we know is nothing. What CaddX are telling us is Ascent will continue alongside Avatar. Avatar will continue. CaddX are telling us there is a GT version 2, and we've seen some images. They are telling us there is an IR camera. They are telling us that there is an Ascent VTX kit coming, although I've seen a picture of it, so it'll probably happen. They are telling us that there is a VRX. I believe that. They are telling us they're going to start working on a new goggle, but they haven't even begun yet, with upgradability features. And they're telling us there's going to be a GT Pro VTX for the Ascent. And maybe a Moonlight 2. But the truth is, you can't believe them. Because once again, they have proven what they say they do not do. And we're now left in a position, once again, that CaddX have made a huge promise on one hand and played bait and switch on the other. And it isn't about the fact that it's not upgradable. I completely accept moving to a new system sometimes means you have to break compatibility. That is what it is. What I can't accept is you telling us that these goggles will be upgradable and then pulling a bait and switch 2 years later saying, we can't do it. I have said from the beginning this upgradability was nonsense, and sadly it's been proven to be true. And I don't take any joy in that being fact. What I'm bloody frustrated about is that I sat here and peddled this BS that CaddX gave me as a creator, telling you that these goggles could be upgraded, because I'm the bad guy now, because I'm the one that said it as well. I am complicit in the lie that CaddX made, because when we are told things by brands, we try to believe what they say. And now I'm sitting here thinking, I now have all of these people who have watched my review, and actually I have told them something that wasn't true, even though I went as far as to say I don't believe it's quite what they say. I now still feel guilty because of their bullshit, and that is why I'm annoyed, and that is why CaddX are not a brand you can trust. I do not care what anyone says. They cannot be trusted 1%, let alone anything else. Unless the product is in your hand, unless you can see it, do not believe it. I don't care what they say is coming. I don't care what they say they're going to do. You can only base purchasing their products on what you have today, and you have to also take into account that they are a company that does not uphold what they say, do not deliver on the promises they make, even when it's printed in their marketing materials, and will gaslight you, me, and everyone else into thinking that we're the ones that got it wrong, instead of actually coming out and saying, hey, we fucked up. So, once again, CaddX have been CaddX, and we're left in this position where the product that they've given us, whilst it works, whilst it does most of what they said it was going to do, largely misses on the promises that remain unfulfilled. Now, I'm going to end this one there because I'm going to start swearing. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will speak to you soon. Fucking CaddX every fucking time. Why? Why can't they just do what they fucking say they're going to do?